What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Cha-ching! Norylska Groans by Michael R. Fletcher and Clayton Snyder. Guys, Michael Fletcher was kind enough to send me an arc. In fact, he was kind enough to send several of us an arc over on the Discord, and we were able to buddy read this, and god damn, it's another dark and dastardly ride. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect with this thing being like co-written, and I gotta say, kudos to both of these guys. This thing is definitely going to be one of those books that I recommend to people that are trying to get into something that's, dastardly. It's that grimdark kind of stuff, okay? Trust me, these guys know what the fuck they're doing, and let's get into that. Now, in Norylska Groans, we follow two different perspectives. One of Katyushka. Now, this is a woman who is basically trying to kind of get her family's name out of the mud, so to speak, as well as just kind of raise her own personal status, though it's very early on as the reader that we get to kind of understand that Katyushka is a strong female, but she has been stifled by the men in her life, as well as the oppression by the state. The other perspective we get is of Gendy. Now, Gendy, or Gen, is a veteran of this war that has happened, and this is something that I really enjoyed with his character because really quickly on, we understand that this war has really stuck with Gen. In fact, it seems like he suffers from horrible PTSD. And it's a sad state of affairs of how the state has really treated its veterans because they're not really taking care of them here. And this is really, tragic for a character like Gen, who is a prospecting family man with a baby on the way, and he really needs to take care of his family. But, like I said, here, the state of affairs in this place is just not, the odds are always against Gen, and, he's just not in the right mind. Our two characters will have to navigate the filth of Norylska, and this is an adventure that's going to bring the reader through all kinds of twists and turns, through criminal activity, as well as corruption within this, militia police force. So one of the first things I want to get into is going to be the writing, because this is being, co-written. It's two authors, right? And it's two different perspectives. Each wrote a different perspective, and I do think that really does shine through to the reader. But at the same time, they obviously feel like they're so in sync and on the same page that it could have been written by one guy as well. So you have very distinct voices, but they just gel perfectly amongst this horrible backdrop of Norylska, which in itself is almost like another character, like the third character that they both have to share, which this is a perfect time to segue into the world building of the book. And I think this is going to be one of the shining aspects for readers, especially if you're into fantasy and maybe you're burnt out on the medieval aspect of things. Well, this is definitely a breath of fresh air and a shot in the arm at the same time. This is basically like an industrial low fantasy tale. It's inspired. It definitely has that post-World War Russia feel. So it's cool. There's guns and stuff in here. The magic system is interesting. But yes, overall, the world building and the feel is great. It does feel different for fantasy, but it's not something that yes, it's out of the medieval days, but it's not into urban fantasy. It's this weird little mesh, and it does feel sci-fi at times. But, all in all, Norylska is just... It's beautiful in its disgustingness. Man, this is just an industrial wasteland of a place. If the state's oppression wasn't enough, certainly the, environmental impacts and nightmares of Norylska and the filth in these places is just, it's so good. It really does play through. You feel like you read this and you're dirty after reading some of these pages with, of the description of Norylska. The sootmen, shoveling up this non-stop snow that's just being constantly covered in ash. It's just, it's so good. It's a dark and just a place you don't want to be, but it's a lot of fun to read about. Another shining aspect of this book is its magic system. This is something that really does give the reader sci-fi vibes at times. There was moments in this book, especially in the beginning, it felt like this low industrial fantasy, but throughout the ride, there were times that this felt like a Christopher Nolan film or something like that. And a lot of it has to do with this magic system and these memory stone amulets. And I don't want to get too much into the magic system because of spoilers. I would love for you guys to kind of figure all this stuff out as you read it like I did. But I will say this, the memory stones, the being like the wearer, when they wear them, they can see the memories of the previous wearer. But when they take off the memory stone, they won't remember anything that they witnessed while wearing the stone. I don't know if you guys kept up with all that, but realistically what this creates is just all kinds of convoluted fucking fuckery. Backstabbing and betrayal galore, and you're not sure because, boom, you don't have these memories. You can't tap into them until you wear the stones. So you're clueless for, little like parts here and there. It really does help add tension, and it adds a mind-fucky aspect that I do think people will find refreshing. Next, I want to talk about the characters again just a little bit, because I think that these guys were well fleshed out, and for being a very dark and dastardly book, the funny thing is I think a lot of readers are going to be able to get on board with our main characters because they're not bad people. These are people that are put in a horrible position. A position that constantly beats them back. So how else do you try to elevate yourself in a place like this? The only way to elevate is to fight back. Like I mentioned earlier, I really appreciated the work that went into Gendy and his PTSD. This is something that we will experience consistently as the reader here in this story, just much like a person inflicted with this would in real life. This is not something where the author just made a cliff note or a footmark, just like, hey, this guy's got some troubles, and then we just go on with the story. No, we are going to have to sit in this troubled mind, these past experiences that haunt someone much like they do in real life. I appreciated this. It was dark and tragic and just painful at moments. But it also helped me massively sympathize with this character when he goes super dark. Because this character has the darkest parts in the book, for sure. And maybe too dark for some. But like I said, for me, it was really easy to be on his side just because of all this shit he went through. It's kind of, in a way, it's not his fault. He is the weapon that was forged by the state. And Katyushka is another character that you can easily get behind. Like I said earlier, really early in, I could tell that this was a strong woman that had been beaten back by the men in her life. And it really does frustrate you. Like, that's what I'm saying. You sympathize with her and you kind of want to punch her fiance in the face. All the men that are kind of gawk, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you really get on her side right away just because you feel how held back she has been in all aspects of her life. So you are kind of frustrated for her. So you're constantly like rooting for her. But then as we progress, the cool thing about Katyushka's like storyline is that she becomes, one of these militia like police officers, where we really get to see the magic system really play itself out with Katyushka, and we get all that mind-fucky business, and it's really interesting to watch somebody have to kind of become somebody else to understand their own strength. Next, I want to talk about the book's overall tone, because I do think that this is a grimdark book. It is dark and dastardly, guys. I mean, yes, you can get behind and sympathize with the characters, but the things that they will have to do, certainly there are going to be people that can't get on board. We will be dealing with things like torture, and this is probably going to be too much for some because these torture scenes are dark and visceral, guys. Some, I really love these, but they also were kind of reminiscent of Reservoir Dogs, kind of. Like I said, num 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 num. Dark and delicious for me, but maybe too much for you. And you got to understand as well, it's not just always like the dark and dastardly nature of, the interactions of our characters. You got to remember constantly in the background, Norylska is belching up fucking soot and chemicals, and it's a nasty place. Danger at every corner. It just might be too much for some people. So my 2 cents for the slow and the struggling is yes, Norylska Groans could very well be for you. As long as you have a strong stomach, you're not squeamish, and you're willing to dive into just, the dark and the dastardly, you're gonna have a lot of fun. And this is also really good for you guys on multiple levels, not just because it's very enjoyable and it's a fast-paced ride. It's also because, man, this thing is going to be a standalone novel. So you don't have to worry about like, oh shit, I'm investing in a knee-deep series or anything like that. This is something really that you guys can get in, get out, and get on with your life and enjoy it for what it is. A nice slice of dark, grimdark fantasy. All right, guys, as always, thanks for spending some time down here at the channel. It's a Michael R. Fletcher and Clayton Snyder. A gadoosh. 4 thumbs up for both you fucking madmen. I swear. Very impressed, guys. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to read the book ahead of schedule. We really do appreciate it, and we look forward to anything else you guys might want to throw at us there in the dungeon, all right? I'd also like to mention that if you guys would like to join us on the Discord, there will be a link in the description. Come on down and talk about all that dark and dastardly stuff that you love so much. Or maybe you don't, I mean, whatever. You can just still come on down and talk to us. We do talk about other books as well, but also, if you guys want to hear more about Norylska Groans, I am also planning to do maybe a little discussion with some other booktubers like Dark Portents. Hopefully, maybe David Decero can get on there as well. I'm just trying to do a little collection of who has read this book already, and then we can put our, dark minds together and put something out there for you, all right? All right. If you're new, please like and subscribe. It helps me grow the channel. And like always,